Okay, Nada, I think this is the right moment to start our discussion. So welcome to everybody. I'm so glad to have the opportunity to share with you this topic that is so dear personally to me. How are we changing, in fact, thanks or despite the COVID world? What is happening, in fact, with in terms of, is there any changes in terms of the purpose that corporations are giving to the society? What are the values that have changed, have been adapted? What is the level of agility that there has been in the workplace? And what is the starting point of this discussion is that some time ago we were discussing with Nada about a research that appeared that it was provided by KPMG, where they were asking the CEOs, so what is the biggest risk for corporation nowadays? And funny enough is that this research that was done like December 2020 put like the lack of talent or the talent readiness as the top uncertainty for the future of business growth. And when they did this study in January 2020, so that means just before COVID, the lack of the talent readiness was number 11. So from number 11, it went to number 1. What a drastic change. So the COVID crisis has made it a little bit more evident that most leaders were not prepared to deal with the current situation, specifically from the human side. There was something lacking, and you are in front of the situation, the realities, and suddenly you don't know how to handle people working remotely, people who needs mental support, people who needs to be reassured with the uncertainty of the times, and we were not just ready for that. So through the pandemic, we have seen that a couple of things. One is that CEOs believe that purpose is more relevant than ever. Employees have started reconsidering their current career to have more fulfilling path alternatives. Is that enough to have just the financial perks of working for a company, or is there something else? And that has been driven also by the changes of the current situation. Corporate cultures have been shaken as they were not adapted to the needs of an organization who is in the turmoil of a lot of uncertainty. So what we want to do in this session is to kind of deconstruct the changes in attitudes, belief of individuals and corporations, understand what happened, and assess what are the options to thrive and generate optimal performance in this new world. And you know what? I'm super excited also because Nada is with us. Nada is someone that I have known already for a couple of years. She has a wealth of experience from the corporate side inside of human resources, and for all of the contributions that she has been giving in terms of game-changing cultures in different corporations around the world. And well, I'm going to stop, Nada. You need to tell me a little bit more about you. Tell me.
Sure, thank you, Ivan. It's a real pleasure to be with you today. I cannot say much more. Thank you for such lovely words. We've known each other for many years now in different contexts, and it's always a pleasure to be together. Well, as you said, I have a real passion to work with transformations and transformation of cultures, of people. Whatever that may mean in any context, whether it's a big company, it's a small company, but my true belief in the transformation pre-COVID and post-COVID even was emphasized. The different values we can and purpose, I'll be more than happy to share today from practical experience how things are moving to hopefully support the people to make better decisions after COVID, because I believe it's a very critical time. Yet I always see that such crises can be easily shifted to opportunities if we use the right tools and if we change the mindset and the perception to that. So looking forward, really.
Nada. I think we are going to benefit a lot from your insights. So now a little bit about myself. I am the co-founder of Bessern. And what we do is that we help organizations improve performance and well-being. Now, in fact, people believe that performance and well-being are not correlated, but that there is many research that prove, in fact, that the performance and well-being goes hand in hand, and specifically has become so important in our days. And little by little, I have noticed that it has been in small drops embedded already in the minds of corporations that you cannot deal without taking care of with the good performance without well-being. Prior to founding Bessern, in fact, I was for 17 years, Nada, can you believe, in the corporate world, in an American company. I have been going through transformations. I had the opportunity to jump from different areas of this company. I remember my early days as a kind of a business analyst, crunching numbers, because I have a background of engineering. I'm very numbers oriented, by the way, so I need data to prove that there is change or not. I have been progressing in areas of marketing, in commercial areas. My last role was as the commercial strategy head for the Middle East. I had many opportunities and many good learnings about what it is to progress in the corporate world and how it is the waves of adaptability. But still, nothing compares to the changes that we have lived as of today. And this is the right moment, in fact, to start discussing about what has happened during COVID. What are the major changes observed in the mindset of people during COVID? Is there something that has happened or not? So if you don't mind, Nada, I'm going just to start a little bit with, because I want to refer back to this same KPMG study where they were asking many CEOs about what they think about what has been the changes. So there was the question to the CEOs regarding what do you think is the purpose of your corporation today? And funny enough, it's only less than a quarter of these CEOs who answered that the major objective is about managing the shareholder values. Less than a quarter, which previously it was the biggest focus. Now, if we look to the other answers, 54% were taking a broader purpose-driven approach focused on multiple stakeholders. So they believe that it's about finding their ways to the shareholders, providing shareholder value, but that there is something else providing more purpose to the society. Around 22% say that the primary objective is improve the society. Wow, this is a big change in terms of the perspective that we bring to the role of corporations in our society.
Absolutely.
79% say that they need to reevaluate the purpose of their corporations as a result of COVID. What have you observed, Nada, from your side in terms of this need to find a different purpose for corporations?
This is actually music to my ears, Ivan, because you know, when we are undergoing any transformation, we face the usual obstacles of people not understanding why the change, what's in it for me, the usual cycle of fear, resistance, and so forth. I think the COVID has put everyone in a position that the change is there and it's not to be avoided, or it's inevitable, like we say. And many research has proven exactly what you are saying, even on the corporate and values side. Like if we talk about the shifts that has happened inside the organizations and the shifts from being very hierarchical to being more people focused, to be driven not due to financial or business results anymore, like what you're saying, but more into agility, more into focusing on communication. The shift has happened in the mindsets of the leaders as well as the organization culture for many companies, whereby, like we said at the beginning, also the focus on well-being is not nice to have anymore, but it's a must-have. According to Barrett Value Center, the well-being and the health moved from being number 26 in importance for the employees to number 5. So new values have been either introduced or reinforced, like the family, for example. It's been always there, but the ranking and the importance of people is now different, again, due to the shift that has happened in the mindset. So it is very important to acknowledge this as an organization, to onboard your people with you in that change of mind shift or the changing ideas and values and purposes. And very important is to align with the personal values of the employees in order to create more harmony and more connection to the organizational values, which will in turn increase definitely the commitment and later on the objectives of the company.
You are fully right. Nada, I want to bring back a personal conversation that we had a couple of weeks ago, and where I was commenting to you, I have never seen such an involvement from human resources people.
Yes, absolutely.
In social media that have been voicing out the voice of employees, talking about well-being, about mental health, about the need for reassurance, because people has been suffering at work during this period. So there was a lack of confidence that has been resented all across corporations. So the confidence in the global economic growth has plummeted since the beginning of the year. And this is due to the pandemic. 32% of CEOs are less confident in global economic growth than they were at the beginning of the 2020 year. So this has been felt by the organization, and suddenly we hear kind of a soft revolution from human resources that in pre-COVID, I must say, and sorry to be that blunt, human resources were not anywhere in terms of, the perception was, that
yes,
they were not into the support of the employee. It was considered as a support function where there is so much to do because there is so much manual things to control, numbers. You were owning a process. And suddenly, when you see that that in my LinkedIn wall, what I see is that every day there is at least 20 people from human resources that are posting something that is quite relevant for the world today. And I think it demonstrates, is a sign of how important the human aspect is becoming in organization, and how human resources is not anymore afraid to speak on behalf of employees. And this is quite awesome. But the news are not good, not all good during this COVID time. So if we look from the perspective of the mental health, so pre-COVID, the numbers were that around 45% of employees were suffering of extreme anxiety because of work. This is one. Secondly, the populations that were suffering the most were women, because still we live in an unequal world where women have to deal with the household and with the work. So that has added to the pressure of women during the COVID times. So it has worsened the situation for women. And in general, younger generations, like the late millennials, are the ones suffering the most in terms of mental well-being. So this has worsened. So from the 45% of people having anxiety problems pre-COVID, we have 12 points more that has been added because of COVID.
Yes.
So the big question is, despite all of the good, positive things that we see during these times, is it enough to compensate this growth of cases of mental well-being? What is your feeling? Have we done enough? Have we transformed enough during this COVID time, or is simply not enough?
I don't think it's enough yet, because I think we are still all in the learning phase. Not only HR, but I think even the leaders, like you said, are becoming more uncertain now worldwide in different industries about next decisions they need to take for their business. So I think we are all in the learning phase, and I think COVID has sort of pushed everyone against the wall to have to face the real issues they have on a business level, on a human level as well. Otherwise, they will not be able to sustain or grow the business anymore. And having said so, I will tend to not disagree, but maybe shed the light on the role of HR from a different perspective, that HR has been always playing a very supportive role and working as a very strategic business partner with the business in most of the organizations, believing in the role of transformation. Whereas in those who still believe what's in it for us, we're doing things super, still on the product centricity side more than consumer centricity, still deciding to do things in a complex manner, very hierarchical, who are automatically falling behind with this mentality. I think now COVID has pushed even those type of organizations and of management teams to also shift the mindset to be following a real transformation. I think HR has been always the pioneer behind the transformation. I always find it amusing when I'm attending a call or taking part in a talk, and people refer to transformation as digitalization and IT team. And I always wonder who will be behind the IT team to show them the new skills, to shift the mindset of themselves and of other teams working with them, if HR is not playing a proper role and putting down the milestones for transformation. So I think now it's time where people are realizing again that the transformation of mindset is not a nice to have anymore. The wellness and the health and the priority of the correlation between dividing time for yourself and the new value that has now occurred for family that's coming as a priority. That's why many organizations now are even extending the work from home options. Some organizations are even exploring the opportunity to start selling some assets and to provide people with comfortable work from home conditions and tools. This is all coming from the fact that people are reprioritizing the values again and the real purpose of the jobs. I think the younger generation might have it more difficult because they think a lot. They are on a much higher speed in comparison to us in what they want to achieve and where they want to be. I remember in one of the companies I was working, and we were analyzing maybe 5-6 years back the main drivers for the young generation, the fresh grads or the very young professionals, where they want to join a job. And I remember seeing for the first time in my career at the time that they want to join a job to be able to relocate and travel the world. Not because they want stability like our generation, they want to grow vertical, but now know how much they want to explore the world and be promoted, and explore other opportunities very quickly. Having said so, I think definitely in a crisis like the pandemic, with the very fast pace, which is not always necessarily an advantage, by the way. Like, you always need to balance out how quickly you are moving and adapting and in changing processes and in ensuring your people are on board with you in the same boat, as opposed to other needs you need to take care of, even if this will take a longer time. And the challenge now is with the HR professionals and CEOs and MDs, because they're working most of the time now with HR to protect the welfare of the employees, so to say, is how to create the right balance and how to prioritize in order to ensure you are still having the productivity level that you want, the engagement level, equipping the tools that, and I don't mean tools like mobiles and laptops only, but real tools to make the person at home feel they are still secure as a manager. The teams are performing. We have faced that a lot of complaints where managers are not trusting their subordinates to be working. Yes. How can I know that they were? Maybe they are by the beach, maybe they are. And these are all valid concerns, but if you start thinking that at the end you have one purpose that you need to fulfill, changing your mindset also as a manager, it will reflect on your subordinates more positively, that they will feel more trusted. And this is a new value also, not new, but a new high-ranking value now that is coming up when you read about researches and what organizations want to have. The value of trust and engagement from the management and among the people, among the different layers, and even between a manager and their subordinates. So we need to be very cautious in what we want to achieve, address the needs of the Gen Ys and millennials also, but maybe it's time for everyone to pause. Like when you read articles about what the COVID has done to some people's minds, they use the expression of freezing or pausing. And this is what you're referring to as people being very anxious. People cannot perform like before. This is a shared responsibility between HR professionals to provide tools to support employees, but it's very important that ideally this should have started pre-COVID to change the mindset of how we do the work and how things need to be managed onwards. And I have a bit of a concern for those who still believe that it's pre-COVID, post-COVID is the normal. And some people still fail to understand or fail to actually face their fear that things will never be the same again. Everything is changing. Not only the way we're doing business, but big business models are now changing. Operation models are changing. The way we are sourcing even is going to be completely different. And this is touch basing again on the Gen Y, that Gen Y now also, surprisingly, they need to work on new set of skills now, because otherwise the jobs will be after some time obsolete. How we as HR professionals need to prepare for all of this, to retain our people, to attract new people, a younger generation. But now organizations are not like pre-COVID, because even the competencies you need to have and the way you are sourcing now will never be the same, because we have experienced what it is to be living in a pandemic for over a year. And guess what? Many people are actually doing very well in the business. So those who are falling behind, whether it's Gen Y or baby boomers or Gen X, we need to address those specific needs for those people and understand why they're falling behind, and provide support, whether through HR or through other resources, maybe through third parties, now we have lots of companies in Egypt that are launching wellness programs under the medical insurance, which was very interesting to see that already we are beginning very proactive trends to educate the HR professionals and the MDs and the executives within any company how to cope with anxieties and stress, and how to make sure that you monitor this as HR. When it goes down, there is a big alarm for that. Like now, I'm always saying now, like we do in Egypt, we have something mandatory. Before you join any company, you have to do a health checkup. So you go to a hospital and you need to get yourself checked, and you need to get certificates saying about your physical health. I now think that the mental health, before you assign someone to any job, before you start sourcing, is as important. As you're saying, some people are really falling behind. They're still suffering from anxiety, and this is also coming due to the uncertainty they're feeling. So as HR, you need to comfort them, and you need to understand where your big problems are falling, and then start creating an action plan to comfort the people accordingly, or to give them, like we say in Europe, you have something called leaves due to unstable mental health. And this is a concept that needs to be introduced to all companies very soon, to also protect those who are capable of coping in a more positive manner. Because otherwise, the negative feelings and the fears and anxieties, if they're not contained, it will soon spread.
Nada, something that I really like about what you said is that this expectation that things are going to come back to normal is completely wrong, because the pre-COVID was not that awesome, and it's good that change is happening. There were a lot of things that we were doing wrong in terms of our private lives, in terms of the values or the culture that the corporate world was developing, that needed to be reconsidered. And this crisis has given us the opportunity to try new things, because we saw where are the weaknesses. A corporation cannot thrive, an organization cannot thrive in terms of productivity. You were talking about this idea of being frozen, which kind of lead me a little bit to the next topic about the implications for corporations. This idea of being frozen is saying we are paying people to be productive. Nevertheless, there is a trend that has been growing in corporation, which is called presenteeism. So this frozen, being in front of the screen, being physically present in front of the screen, where, as you say, my boss can look at me through the camera. I'm in front of the screen, but I'm simply frozen in front of the computer, and people misunderstand the spread of the problem. There was a study in the UK where the cost of presenteeism has been estimated at 1,000 pounds per year per employee. Can you imagine how much impact it can have in terms of financials, that to have people who are just not doing what they are supposed to be done? And we are always considering that mental well-being is about just counting the sick leaves. No ways. It's about quantifying the lack of productivity of people who do not feel at their best mentally. I'm looking at the chat, and there was a comment from Fernanda saying that one of the things that has impacted, and this I totally agree, is that the work-life balance has been difficult to attain. Working from home, you don't see anymore the borders between what is work and what is your private life, which again goes with what you mentioned. Given the role of HR has been critical in order to provide tools, and by tools we are not talking about physical assets, but we are talking about processes to manage better the new ways of working. So the mindset that you need to have in these uncertain times, in order to have more resilience, in order to have processes to manage this differentiation between private life, making the time, because indeed you are working from the same desk
yes.
that you are sometimes eating. So how do you manage this process? How do you block times in order for your brain to re-energize, to be sustainable, to recharge, in fact? And that's something that is quite valuable. And by the way, Nada, I know that I started a little bit into the critic side about human resources, but you know that I'm provocative, and I wanted just to launch the topic in a very striking way.
That's okay. Just wanted to clarify. I'm not provoked. If I can just add something to Fernanda on the work-life balance, as I said previously, we are all in the learning phase, whether on HR, whether on commercial, it's a new phase. And I think with time, like what you're saying right now is absolutely true. People will start developing the boundaries. Like exactly when an employee used to go to work full time and they would stay every day overtime, every day. you start questioning, why are you overtime? Why do you spend so many hours in the office? Are you understaffed as a team? Is your workload not being properly handled? Are you slow? Do you have a crisis at work? I think with time, because the complaint of the lack of work-life balance, especially with I'm going to be a little bit on the feminine side now, with women having to tackle so many things, like you said, it's becoming difficult. But the good thing is people are aware of it, and research is working on that, and companies are working on recommendations, and HR is studying that, and leaders are having that into consideration. I think that with time, the more people are speaking up about it, and I think also now it's very important to highlight the importance of speaking up and raising issues, especially in a learning phase right now. What's going right, what's not going so right, the trial and error, the learning from the mistakes, and as you said, what we have done pre-COVID was not perfect. So now we are given a perfect opportunity to actually change whatever we need to change, because before COVID also, people used to sometimes raise a flag that we don't have work-life balance. I need to take sometimes more days off. In Egypt, it is common, unfortunately, in many companies that they don't consume their vacation balance in a year. And companies have to compensate you in money after a certain duration for this. And some people take advantage of that. They wouldn't take vacations to get paid this amount, but this is not the right mindset. Where is the role of the management and of the HR to enforce you to take a vacation? I will not force you by taking away your laptop, but how to educate you about the importance of your sanity, like you're saying, to disconnect, to come back more refreshed and productive. So it's all in the mindset. I believe the more we are educating ourselves, the more we are sharing this knowledge with others, the more it will get there. Because the work-life balance, in my humble opinion, is like any other thing you are doing at work or outside work. It's the boundary you want to put for yourself to be respected and appreciated by others. And then if it's not done, then you have the right to complain and raise a flag. But now we are in the learning phase. The managers themselves were freaking out until the last few months. Oh my God, how can I do appraisals remotely? Now that everything is done, now that productivity is becoming to stabilize again, now that companies are focusing on different development tools, launching wellness initiatives, seeking help to understand about wellness and about the well-being of the employees, focusing rather than from hierarchy, business results, but more I'm moving into people, communication, engagement. When this becomes clearer, everything will change. But I think also, like I said, we need to give things time. Okay, we need to give things time. But the more we are holding such sessions, we are sharing knowledge, we are learning, we are reading and sharing it further, we will get there.
Yeah. Nada, I want to get back because I have a question that somebody has posted that I wanted to answer, because I think that this is super critical and you're going to love it, Nada. So this person says that how can we be sure that if you have struggles with your mental health issues, that they are not going, the corporations are not going to use it against you? This is a very good question, and I'm glad that the person has asked it. Let me just share my take on this. If a corporation is capable of using this against you, you need to take the lead of leaving that corporation, because they will not have any scruple to kick you out if needed. So you are already in a very uncertain moment, because if you feel that the culture is corrupted, is rotten inside of that corporation, they will not have anything against that will prevent them to kick you out at any time. If you feel that, if there is no trust in the culture of the company, you should leave, because the price that you have to pay, and I say it also from the personal side, is that it is quite high, and it takes time to recover, and it takes time for your family to recover from that change when they see someone who is broken inside. Now, let me get back to the definition of that sometimes people think that that is wrongly interpreted about burnout. Burnout doesn't come because you are working a lot. Burnout comes from the fact that your values and the values of the corporation do not match, and you are constantly on demand. People are asking you these things. Your families are asking you different things. Your personal values, your heart is not anymore there, and you are broken. I think that the smart word is cognitive dissonance, where things are not matching, and your brain is constantly in demand. You cannot sleep anymore correctly. You have a crisis of anxiety. I have seen people, unfortunately, that cannot even walk for a couple of days. So the price to pay is quite heavy. So if you feel that this corporation is not trustable, make the first step yourself. What do you think, Nada?
Spot on. I don't think there's much to add here. I think it's, we always say that culture eats strategy for breakfast. This has been one of my favorite quotes whenever I'm undergoing a transformation project. And if you don't feel that there's enough trust for you and this culture to grow and to feel vulnerable enough that you are passing through a difficult time, well, for me, a mental instability due to something like a pandemic and the fear of losing a job or losing a family member or being sick yourself is exactly as vulnerable as if somebody has a physical disease. But unfortunately, again, because of the lack of awareness, that people confuse this and they might not use this in the optimal way. It's against the law. It's against the human law. It's a compliance thing, actually, that can be raised as opposed to raising a flag against differentiation because you're not getting equal opportunities, because you're not fairly treated. It's a long list of terminologies we can use now in HR to protect such acts. But totally agree with you. If the person doesn't feel safe enough to share such a concern, how else do they expect to grow or to be sustained in such an environment? And how do they expect to be productive? It cannot match. Another thing that employers now are doing to prevent similar things is to have this platform confidentially run through third parties.
Yeah.
So this is also a way maybe that you can propose to your management that they can be managing such things through third parties, vendors, insurance, applications potentially, because with that, the confidential sense will also increase. So things will be made more or less anonymous, and people could be asking for help without revealing further information about them if they don't feel comfortable. And by law and by policy, this is not supposed to be shared. Like when I receive medical files from our medical insurance just to even review consumption for pure financial purposes, I ask them, and they do this. We remove the names. I'm not supposed to know that Nada is suffering from X, Ivan is suffering from Y. No. Why am I checking? Because I need to check about finances and abuse. No. But it's not my area of specialty. Although I'm heading the HR department, I'm responsible for the deals to know who is suffering from what. It's purely confidential. So actually, if it's exposed and used against the person, then it's a big no.
Yeah.
If they don't trust to be sharing with internally, then suggest to have a third party running this for your company. This could be a way out.
Yeah. Nada, I wanted to move forward and discuss a little bit more about the implications for corporations. So there is a couple of implications, and we can subdivide them in terms of areas. So we have the level of productivity at work that has been impacted. We mentioned already presenteeism being a big share. In fact, the total cost in the UK of mental health relation financial impact, it is comparable to the GDP of Serbia. So we are talking about billions of dollars. So this is huge. And 70% of that cost do not come because you are taking leaves because you don't feel well mentally. It's coming from presenteeism. So the fact that you are not working at your best at work and you are being frozen. I love this frozen thing, in fact, because I can visualize it totally. Yeah. Now, there has also been changes in terms of people development. The share of devoted to well-being has increased. So pre-COVID, the share of well-being related programs, development programs were between 3 and 5%. We see that it has been increased to 12%. We are not there yet.
Of course.
The budgets for people development in general, which includes well-being and trainings of either for soft skills or hard skills, have decreased, has shrunk, but it's not that dramatic. In fact, I was foreseeing something that it was quite dramatic, but the average is around 18% lowering lower of the total budget. What concerns me the most is that in terms of the support that people need in order to be fulfilled at work and have the right tools that you mentioned before, is that the share of that is devoted to create this mindset, this adaptability to the new situation, is not that huge. And this is where maybe we needed to press the button pause in terms of development areas that are related to soft skills like communication and so on, and say, can we reallocate more on the fuel that makes this person work better, be at their best mentally, so that they can still keep up with the demands, the uncertainty. So the shift of budget is what doesn't concern me, that they have reduced the budget, because anyways, in countries like in the UAE, which is one of the highest expenditure per capita for employees, but did we need all that money thrown away? That's the big question. We also see that the way people learn in terms of in-class training is one of the most inefficient ways to have someone during 2 days in a training room. And we all know, and I think even human resources know, the fact that the level of retention or applicability after 2 months is in the 2-3%. So what I'm concerned is about the methodology of training people should be revised in order to be more applicable, more relatable to the person, and in terms of timing. The good news is that technology and some of the learnings in terms of brain science allow us to find ways that are still budget-wise quite convenient, but we are not changing this traditional way of training people that rapidly enough. Motivation has been quite highly impacted during during COVID times. The employee well-being, we have already mentioned that in many cases, in fact, and this is related to the question that we answered just before, a lot of the employees want still to hide the fact that they are struggling, and they have been investing themselves from their pocket without telling their company because they are afraid in terms of their development, in terms of their mental well-being. And that is a trend. There is approximately 30% of employees that have been putting their money in, or I mean, now there is a lot of tools that you can access online in order to manage your well-being, but they have been putting a little bit of their pocket because they are still really afraid of sharing that with their corporations. What is your take in terms of these implications for corporations?
Well, I think you nailed it all. Maybe the small thing that I can add here for the development, and I will share what I've been doing with the company where I'm currently at. I did not stop the development last year at all. I just changed the methodology. We do the development for our people. Maybe an answer to, or an insight to what you're saying, is to develop very customized things for for the people. And this has been always my approach whenever I work in anything related to L&D. Customization is key. Before COVID, during COVID, after COVID, there's no one size fits all in development. A smart L&D professional should always get a sense of what the organization needs most and the timing they need to introduce this and the priority they need to follow. I don't think that COVID, at least from my perspective, because I'm always optimistic about development and I always count on the people. I don't think it should be changing. I just think that we need to, again, change the mindset about the priorities now and about what is needed to create this good changing environment, whether work from home, whether when we go back to the office, but at a less capacity. What do you need to empower your managers to increase trust? How can you make the leaders more comfortable and work on their psychological needs, because they suffer most as executive teams. They feel very responsible for the business results. How can you make them more relaxed towards what's coming and more certain and perceive everything as an opportunity? And I know that this is being very easy said than done. But I've seen also last year lots of startups in Egypt working in the training fields. How much? Because they're very young and they're building on the opportunity of this resilience and VUCA and managing remotely and all the nice words we have been using pre-COVID to push for transformation, that now they're putting in a capsule for the people to develop. And they're giving it to people in a way that it's very easy things to read, very easy tips to implement, because mind you, we tend to complicate things as humans. I mean, change is not easy, but once you start removing that this change will harm you or it's there to get you, you begin to be more open and receptive. This is the normal, unless of course you have a traumatizing experience with change, which has impacted your personal values. Okay. Yeah. So this is not everyone. Of course, we have a good percentage of people fearing to see the bright side of change, but you have a good number of people also who are open to change if you show them the positive side of it. Yeah. Here lies the responsibility again on the L&D professionals, and I've been working with one of those startups. They take my opinion in my position as HRD. What do I see for the coming 4 to 5 years for the new generation, for the senior people to develop? And we've been brainstorming together on a product that they have launched in 2021, including those skills that they need to be embedded either for the young, for the senior, because even the senior people now, they need to change mindsets. I'm changing completely how I need to develop my people. It's a change of mindset that I need to work on personally to be able to convey this to the teams I'm working with. So I think that also with time, and I believe that in 2021, we will see lots of exciting new programs. Like now people are talking about emotional agility. They're replacing that with emotional intelligence. Yeah. People are talking about leadership maturity. It's the first time to read about that, and they're giving this to leaders, and it's a training that will not only show you how to be a good leader and give you the nice needed skills, but how to make sure you have matured in your position as a leader so you can sustain those changes. So I think it all depends on how the L&D professionals are willing to expand and stretch themselves to take it to the next level of development. But I think development never ends, and with any opportunity, even when after COVID we begin to be more stable and more at ease with COVID and more at ease with wearing masks and everything, the smart people in the field will be the one to capture on the rising needs, on the changing needs, and to be able to sell it. And I think what the startup has done to take the opinion and the feedback and to have brainstorming sessions with many HR professionals in Egypt was a very smart move, because now they developed a product that is pinpointing all the things we have been crazy about last year in one journey. Okay, and it will begin to evolve again, when they launch it, the feedback of the people. So that's the beauty of it. I mean, we learn as we go.
Nada, I love what you mentioned. So there is a good transformation in terms of the development of learning journeys for employees that are a little bit unconventional, we must say, because all what you mentioned is true, that if 1 year ago you come with mindfulness leadership or maturity leadership, the HR guy would kick you out of the door in 3.5 seconds. But today you come with that, people are listening because they know that they need it. And it's not anymore about giving them 300 slides about telling the stories of somebody else, but it's to provide the bandwidth to people to accept, to have the capacity to be more receptive, to be more self-learning, to give them the tools to grow by themselves. And this is quite important. I wanted to get back because we have 6 minutes before the ending of this session, is about the sense of purpose that we have in our in organizations. So there has been an evolution, and we know that the driving intrinsic motivation, which is the ultimate goal of purpose, has gone into evolution. So gone are the days of thinking that you are the only motivation is your salary. Then we had the motivation framework change into the carrot and stick. You do this, I give you that. You don't do it, I remove something from you. Like, yeah, typically it doesn't need any explanation. And then there is this growth of practice of creating teams that are motivated through finding, in fact, the intrinsic motivation that is within them. And this is where the practice of having a purpose, of having an aim that goes beyond just the financial purpose of the corporation has been key, because especially younger talent, they feel more attracted to that. I think that the Generation X was still very moved by the financial terms. There is this sense of mastery where people are doing something that is challenging enough, but they know how to do it. You don't have to tell them how to do the things, but it's more about clarity on the what and letting them do the way they want to achieve the objective that the leader has fixed. And then there is the sense of creating accountability, ownership of what you are developing in your team. So these three things has contributed to recreate motivation in a new way. And I see a lot of people practicing. It is crazy, Nada, that some years ago, I remember reading this book from Daniel Pink called Drive. I reread it again because all of this situation, it is so, it was so necessary to get back to the basics about what drives motivation beyond financial terms, because believe me, Generation Z doesn't give a crap about the financial terms. Their main concerns, and something I think that you have mentioned, is about how do I get a work-life balance and personal well-being. 39% of them claims that would be a good reason to join a corporation. So the guys are capable of, if they believe that Tom's shoes are going to pay 20 to 30% less than your corporation, they will go to Tom's shoes because there is more meaning, that they have understood that there is work-life balance, there is personal well-being, there is purpose. So how can corporations in fact attract these people, or if they don't change inside of their culture? Nada, I have just a little question that I wanted your help to answer. So we have someone who's telling us that that his generation was more relatable in terms of personal relationships, and it is enough of this virtual relationship through Zoom. So is there any advice for someone who's afraid of losing this personal touch because everything has become virtual?
I don't think we will continue like this, to be very honest. I think it's just we are in a very critical phase right now with this crazy pandemic and people all over the place. And again, we are learning. But personally, I don't think we will continue in a virtual virtual world. I think there will be a combination. I think the COVID has just shed the light on the possibility of doing things virtually. But I don't think we will be like this forever. I personally go to the meetings inside of my office once in a while. I meet with my colleagues, maintaining the social distance. I think we're just in the very critical paranoid phase right now in all companies. But I think the more the paranoia will end, because I truly believe that there's something much bigger happening in the pandemic, honestly. I think things will begin to settle. Yes, we will not go back like before. Maybe some companies will decide to make the workspaces less, but that does never mean that we will be living only virtually. I believe there will be still room for us to go and interact and meet, maybe not like every day, but I don't think the human touch will be gone at all. I think it's just a phase. And I totally understand this because also for my generation, I don't know how old the person has asked is, but also for my generation, I sometimes tell my family I miss hugging my friends, because even the personal touch is not like before. So I totally get it, but I don't think we will continue like this forever. I think it will be the mixture. And I think only the COVID has introduced new ways of doing business, to be very honest, and to interact with people, but it will never be like this forever. This is my imagination.
I share your opinion. It will be a hybrid mode. It will be something in between. It cannot go back to the way it was before. It cannot be the Latin American way that people are just touching each other all the time, which, by the way, I don't like so much. But what we have to take
really, we like touching in Egypt very much.
But what we have to consider is that whatever the age we may have, the brain is constructed in such a way that it can learn at any time. The neuroplasticity principle is something that is quite valid and proven. In fact, that whatever is the age, we can create new routines to adapt and quantify, in fact, to have the same level of pleasure that we had before by replacing old behaviors with new behaviors. So yes, we have that as an advantage that is not because of age or of what we used to do in our generation that we cannot go into terms of evolution. So Nada, some last words on what you think it should be the appropriate way to be more human-centric in today.
Well, I don't know if I can answer that quickly, but maybe very, very, very common, something that would make sense to everyone. I think the personal values that each of us have are very specific to him or her, and they're very consistent. The personal values only change when there's something very big happening around you, personally or within your nearest scope. And I think organizations in the coming period need to be very smart to see how the personal values of their people have changed, and accordingly link it with the new organizational values. This would be one tip personally I'm working on right now in my company, to try to identify through surveys, through talking with our people, to understand what has shifted for them, because a lot of things have shifted for people, and it's important to acknowledge that. Part of changing is also acknowledging that there is a change, and admitting that you need to do something about it. It doesn't have to be right now, but at least bring it to your mindset that when the personal values are changing, it's very difficult to connect to old organizational values. You will soon start losing your people. And even if they're with you physically in the workplace, they will not be as passionate and as engaged as you want them to be. So one tip would be to align both values together as much as you can. through understanding what the people need and what can I as an organization do and achieve to match these values.
Absolutely. Nada, it is quite striking what you just said. I just wanted to add that from the perspective, it is more to build on what you mentioned, is that it has become clear that there has been an evolution in terms of a positive evolution in the right way in terms of this human-centric corporation. It has been positive, but the rate of degradation of the support that employees need has been increasing at a higher rate. So this is the moment where we need to take our goats and say, is it worthwhile? Do I need to change culture to try something else? Financial terms have never been enough to compensate the lack of well-being, trust, or whatsoever. So I think this is the moment where we can all take our destiny in our hands and in order to move forward. Nada, really, thank you very much, because I have learned quite a lot today.
Thank you, likewise. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the attendance. It was lovely to have you. And by the way, so if you need to get in touch, Nada Rashed is in LinkedIn. Ivan Palomino is in LinkedIn. Connect, ask questions, shoot. So I would be glad to connect with you, really. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you,
Great
everyone.
evening.
Thank you. You too. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.